Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to wherever you are in the world. My name is Balforg, the Gaming Bullfrog, and I'm here with you on the first mission of the DCS World A-10C campaign. Now, I am playing in version 1.56 at the moment, and this is going to be my first flyout in a few days. I've just been recently getting back into DCS. And as we're rolling down the runway here, we're going to just make sure we're keeping aligned, turn off the nose wheel steering, and adjust our vector for the end of the runway. You can see that just at the bottom of the HUD up there, now it's up at the top. So, throughout this video I'm going to be discussing my tactics and how I approach this mission. And some of the jargon is going to be a little bit hard to follow if you're not familiar with the module itself. I apologize if I have to be brief in my explanations, but this is not a tutorial mission. This is a live flyout of a mission that I've done in the playthrough. So without further ado, I'm going to turn on all of my safeties off so that I can quickly engage whatever I need to once we get out to the AO. So we're going to be banking off to the right hand side here quickly. You'll see our wingman is number 2 on the bottom left there. He's going to be swinging out wide and to the right. He's going to be circling back around to be on our 6 o'clock, or somewhere in that position. And we're just trying to maintain a little bit of altitude here. So we've got our nav page opened up on the right hand side. You can see our position, north 4136 and east 4136. We're just off the coast of Batumi. Currently we're on waypoint 1. Just after takeoff, our initial position, we started off on the runway. Switching over to the TGP on the right hand side now, instead of the nav page, and I switched to air to ground mode. Now that we've hit 3,500 in altitude, I'm going to be banking to the right to hit waypoint 2. You can see right here on the HUD, in the bottom right corner of that, it says 3/IP. That's actually my waypoint right now. That's the incorrect waypoint. I realized this mistake and correct it by pressing data management switch down. I just switched to fence. And that was done while the HUD was sensor of interest, or SOI. And you do that by pressing the coolie hat up. If you're watching this video to familiarize yourself with the A-10C, I welcome you here. And I will try and go as detailed as I can about the internal systems of the A-10 without bogging you down with too much information. If you ever need to slow it down or rewind to watch it again, feel free to do so.
Flight. Engage air defenses.
So now we're making our way back over towards the coastline, maintaining about, what is that, 5,000? Altitude is now 62. That's what, Angel 6, 4 joules. So now I am checking in with JTAC, which is our forward shot caller, essentially. And as we're approaching the area of interest, you can see some smoke over on the left-hand side of the window there. That's probably where some artillery has either hit home or a seed mission has been successful.
Dodge at 8,000. Armed with AGM-65D, AGM-65H.
So they're calling out my... I am calling out my armament to JTAC now.
BU-87, rockets, 2,300. Cannon, playtime is 0 plus 15. Available for tasking. What do you have for us?
And now I'm checking my weapons loadout to make sure that I'm all good to go to acquire some targets and start firing away.
Hog, 1-1. This is Death Star, 1-1. Type 3 in effect. Advise and ready for 9 line.
So now they've asked me to ready to copy.
Ready to copy.
I read that back,
Line is as
and now
follows.
they're going to give me my
1, 2, 3,
designation.
50 feet, MSL. Artillery, Golf, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2. No mark, 0. Southwest, 28,000. Egress, east.
So you would all use all of this
Advise and ready for
information
remarks and further talk on.
to figure out how to best approach the target and locate the target. They give you the coordinates that you could plug into your navigation point and make a new waypoint there. And at this point, I'm going to start to try and locate them myself. I know that they're at waypoint 4, and I'm going to hold altitude by switching my, not the APU, but the autopilot to altitude hold.
Warning, autopilot.
Now that warning autopilot means that I was too far out of alignment and I needed to activate it again.
Hog 1-1, Magic, pop-up group, 35648 at 1,500, flanking.
But as you can see, we're in a nice steady level hold.
Pop-up group, 0,
Now I'm going to make sure that my targeting pod can actually get over and around to look at it. But I don't think that it's going to be possible in this left-hand bank because the targeting pod is indeed on my right-hand wing. So we would be pointing the targeting pod away from the target, which is not what I intended. You want to have, at this point, a lot of altitude. And at this point, I hear Tally Bandit. And that's not good, because that means that there are Su-25s in the air at this point. So I saw a missile launch, and I instinctively pop a few flares, and start looking over my shoulder for contrails or smoke clouds of missiles. I don't see any at this point, so I turn off my flares and verify that yes, that is actually my ally on my 6. And I can very clearly see that that is the silhouette of an A-10.
Colt 5, passing waypoint 2 at 2,600.
So now I'm switching over to make my targeting pod, yes, soy, sensor of interest, and I'm making sure that all of the information that I need is plugged into the sensor. But that will be coming up. I don't think I actually tell it to, have latch on, for instance, in the control section of the panel, which would allow me to just toggle the laser. Or the other setting that I like to adjust on that is make it point lock and not area lock. And now I've just made my sensor of interest the HUD, made the waypoint my sensor point of interest using TMS up long or China hat aft long, and then slaving all sensors using China hat forward long to the area. And now what I'm doing is I am lining up on each target, and I'm going to make each target a mark point. And as you can see there on the left, I've just made that a mark point A. You do this by pressing target management switch right when your targeting pod is SPI or soy, or your TAD is soy. It will mark wherever your cursor is. And I know I saw 4 artillery here. And there's the third one. But I'm just adjusting my bank at the moment and resetting the autopilot. I'm now going to repeat the process for the third one. Making that my mark point, verifying that yes, that is mark point C over on the left-hand side. And now, I just saw a puff of cloud where they fired a shell. That was what I was looking for the fourth one. And now that I've located it, can zoom in, ensure that I'm over the body of the vehicle, the largest center of mass, lower to the ground preferably, and making that a mark point. And yes, it is now mark point D. Now that as we're going in, and as we're kind of banking closer and closer, we need to make sure that there's no anti-air in the area. So I'm going to scroll around and kind of look to see if there's any evidence, and aha! We see a lone truck in the middle of the field, and that is indicative of an anti-air launching site. And I just get a lock on, and I'm going to make this another mark point. I just look up quickly to make sure that that missile is not intended for us, and it is coming from the FA-18s that are marked on the RWR there, or the 16s, F-16s, probably launching missiles at enemy bandits in the area. I'm also scanning around for anything else in the area, and I noticed that we're flying right over the engagement area. So I turn away, and I did not notice initially that there was signs of a flare down on my TGP. But I see my ally flaring, and I start to pop my flares, because I'm wondering, hey, what's going on here? So, magic is... we're calling magic to check for our status on enemy combatants, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm still very shaky on my radio comms. And I noticed something burning down here. It's out in the middle of nowhere, so I'm hoping that that's another AA piece. Zoom on in, and it turns out to be a tank, which is fine. And then we notice something over on the right-hand side. Aha, a little X in the town, just to confirm that yes, that is a friendly marker. And there was just a missile launch, and the missile is not in our vicinity. I do not think that I noticed that at the time. I was too busy identifying that target. But as I swing back around here, I believe that we'll start to see a flurry of activity. So take a quick look at our TAD, see where all the operators are. Everything's a little bit too close together, so zoom in the map a little bit. And now we'll start making our way back around. And it's at this point that right near all that smoke is just a bright explosion of gunfire, or what appears to be gunfire, and then it subsides slowly. And that is what makes me think of as a flare. And you can see the skinny missile launch and the several flares and a burning wreckage falling out of the sky. That is what catches my attention. And I continue to see the flares popping out of the sky there, so I'm going to zoom straight in for that, because to my knowledge that is not a friendly aircraft. And those look like the flares of an Su-25T, so I immediately turn on my air-to-air mode by holding down the master mode button, and then I make it my sensor point of interest, and then I uncaged it using TMS up. Get for a good signal, strong lock, shot off, and that is a hit. Uncage another missile, fire away. Good, good. He flared, but it still strikes true. At this point, I go in, and I'm thinking I finish him off with guns. But he's having none of it. One of my wingmen gets him with another AIM-9, and that is a killed Su-25. So I decide it's too hot in this area, we need to gain some altitude, we lost it in that diving maneuver right there. And now I hear Taliban at 1 o'clock, and I am trying to locate where my wingman is. But I can't see him anywhere on my visual, so then I check my 1 o'clock to see if he meant that there was a bandit out there. Check above, check to the right, check behind, nothing. So I'm not really sure what the situation is at this point, so my best option is to extend. And with that first engagement, I think I'm going to leave it off here. On our next, on the next part of this mission, we will go into dropping bombs and firing Mavericks missiles. So I hope that you join me then.